Do you have one now, or?
No.
But that's something, you know, we could look at down the road, but I like what you, the idea for me, Dean, for this whole thing was, you mentioned tonight, what this, you talked last night, what it's gonna cost to do this cell, 360, 70,000?
I didn't bring that back.
Well, roughly, that's what it's gonna run, from what you said before. We have the money now, guys, but we spend that money, how are we gonna get it back? You know, we're gonna have to start looking at our communities and raising rates here. You know, if we could do this, we could be salting away $60,000, $70,000 a year for the next cell.
Yeah, okay, you know, along that line, you know, we talked about it last night. If we, you know, come up with a plan, transportation, the drop box or drop boxes, how many that cost, and you know, we come up with a proposal, and the Howard Center said, okay, we said that we wouldn't stand in the way if it was really a good plan, it could save the county a considerable amount of money, you know, give us some time to adjust to this situation. So, and we save money. And that's what we've been talking about. We're going through this, you know, what are we going to do with the money we save? Are we going to come up with a formula to backfeed that back to the 9 towns in the county? Because this is going to cost more. I mean, the solid waste agency is going to pay the $16,000, $20,000, and $10,000 here, and we might pay, you know, the drop box part like Iowa was talking about. But you know, all these towns are going to have increased transportation costs. So, you know, front end, temporarily, their costs are going to go up. But if we save money in the aggregate, the 9 towns, you know, in theory, aren't going to have to put as much money as they would have otherwise into our operating costs or for capital expansion.
Okay, what's
So the money,
now, 1,000 people?
you know, something to think about is, you know, if we're going to save money, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to try and rebate it back to the towns, or are we going to bank it?
We're gonna satisfy DNR's ridiculous mandates they come down with that they give us through Ivan.
So think about that, and when you're talking with your councils and your people, you know, personally, I'm not a board member. Personally, I think the logical thing to do would be to bank it, because we're going to have increased costs. Like Nick said, as we said, you know, how much do we have in our checking account? 100,000. So we got about 500,000 of liquid assets. And say we spend 400,000 on sales. In 3 years that'll be full. So in 3 years we're going to have to come up with another 300,000 or 400,000. You know, if you remember when the budget we adopted, you know, we increased the tipping fee 36, assessment to 22. You know, we figured, you know, all things being equal, we'd build up about $100 in money for capital expansion. We'll see how we close out the year. So, say if we achieve that, after we get all the bills paid next fall from the expansion, we'll probably have 150,000, hopefully, maybe 200,000. But in 3 years, you know, if we're going to keep the landfill open after that, we got to come up with another 200,000 or 300,000.
What was the...
And one thing you got to remember, you know, we bought a payloader this year. We spent 12 grand on the fence. You know, leachate hauling was 9 rather than 6. You know, I guess what I'm saying is, for a lot of years we were running about 4,500 tons landfill because of the hailstorm in Old Bolt, Wall Lake, and Lakeview. We're close to 8. So our tipping revenue is up. That's why we got 100,000 in our checking account, and we haven't cashed a CD. If you think about it, we haven't cashed a CD in a month or a year and a half to 2 years. You know, those of you that have been on longer. So, you know, we're kind of holding our own, but get back to my logic of, you know, maybe we'll have to increase the assessment, you know, maybe we'll have to look at increasing the tipping fee, but if we arrive at agreement with the Howard Center and we save money on our operating expense, that money saved, we probably could bank it and save it for the next expansion. any money saved would minimize the amount of money we'd have to raise through increased assessment and tipping fees. You know, try that on for size, talk to your councils about it. You know, anyway, it's 8:30. Another thing I was going to bring up, and not to confuse it, but, you know, it was $132,000 last June. You know, since we've had this discussion, say starting spring, if you'll notice, I mean, most of you have been in a lot of meetings, all of a sudden our Howard bills are much lower than they had been. And that's probably because, just like Mary said, you know, they're getting more money for the recyclables. But, so, you know, it could be, you know, we get the June, this coming June 30th, it might not be 132,000. It might drop back to like 70 or 80,000, like it was some years past. So, I mean, that is possible. And that's why, you know, we're not going to jump into this thing. I think, you know, we're moving along with it. And it's been interesting.
There were two things at that meeting last night, Dean, that one was, one person questioned about the job loss in Sac County, and when John was here that night, he pretty much told us that he had somebody that would come in and take that building over with something else that he had going, wasn't it?
Yes.
We said the same thing last night. Wheelchair
Yeah.
manufacturing.
Yes.
Yeah, I probably wasn't
Assembly.
there yet then. And then another thing was, another question was, we're gonna lose control of what's going on. Well, we have absolutely no control right now, other than signing a paper that says we're terminating this agreement. That's all the power we have with them.
Yeah, the second year I was on the board, Dave Jennett was the attorney. Laverne, you're a longtime member, and Francis Rydell from Wall Lake. John suggested instead of a yearly renewal, he wanted to go to a 3-year renewal. And the 13,000 for the depreciation or interest, you know, he wanted that, and you know, in retrospect, maybe it'd been better, you know, if I'd known then what I know now, you know, I wouldn't have gone for a 3-year contract. I would have gone for a 1 or a 2. But that's water under the dam.
Okay, let me ask one question. What would we do all this equipment that we, I guess, suppose we own?
You would put it up for sale.
Have you seen some of that equipment in there?
No.
I've gone in there a couple times, you know, looking for large, you know, cardboard or whatever, and it's getting some years on it, guys.
Yeah. Well, you know, in all fairness to, you know, we put more money in that recycling equipment last year than we had for the previous 5 or 6. Another thing, you know, and I think I threw this out last night, that, you know, Jim Shelley has kept that thing running very well. He's, you know, he's a really hands-on manager. And if he would happen to retire, you know, I think there'd be some slippage. There usually is. I mean, everybody's replaceable, but those are things for us to keep in mind down the road. You know, a lot of the people, you know, if we go on a tour in Carroll, you know, many of the people that are working down there are handicapped. They're probably not Sac City residents or Sac County residents, but, you know, they have a lot of handicapped people. Okay, any more?